Practicing as much as possible is one of the most important things a tattoo artist can do when they're up and coming and trying to perfect their skills. Now, typically to get started, there are a lot more things you need and a much larger learning curve to overcome when you first start. Now, with this tool, this allows you to skip all that and first get comfortable with using your machine. The tool that I'm speaking of is what I'm using in this video today. I'm using these pen cartridges, and these allow you to tattoo on paper. So typically, you'll have to use practice skin, the fake plastic skin, to tattoo, and also deal with your ink spilling, paper towels, and cleaning up. This allows you to only focus on getting used to the feel of the machine and cultivating your shading skills and techniques. A bit later in the video, I will show you guys where you can get these, as well as a few things you want to consider before you start using these cartridges. But firstly, I'm going to talk about my experience using these and some of the advantages that I feel using these will give you. One, and the biggest one, being that it will allow you to practice on the go. So typically when you practice, you need to worry about your ink spilling if you're bringing that with you, your stencil, practice skin, all those things. All you really need for here is a piece of paper, your machine, a battery pack, and the cartridges. Now, right here, I did print out a pre-stenciled piece of paper just to make it easier for me to do this portrait of Rihanna here. But if you're on the go and you like to draw on the fly with your mind, you can use these, or you can print out things that you want to practice tattooing with, such as like simple things or maybe even portraits like this. Print out the stencils beforehand, so that way if you're going to be on the go, bring them with you and all these tools, and you'll be able to do this whenever you decide to. Now, another advantage I like about this is that it forces you to practice your control of the weight of your hand and the motion of your hand. So weight affects how things look when you're doing this, and also the direction you're holding the pen. Also, the biggest thing I can say for tattooing, especially realism, is that you're going to want to be patient, because it does take a lot of time, and doing this on paper does take a lot of time. So it'll force you to cultivate your patience and allow you to build that up, so that way when you tattoo, you've already established a good amount of patience, and it becomes easy for you to slow down and really focus on the small details. Another advantage of this is that it forces you to understand saturation and the different effects that it can cause depending on how much ink you apply in a certain area on the paper, and the same applies for real life on the skin. Now, last but not least, it makes you pay attention to how much you're working in a certain area, because just like tattooing, you can damage the paper while you're using the ink cartridge, which brings me right into the things that you're gonna want to consider if you plan on buying some of these cartridges. Now, just like I said, the damage does apply to the paper when you're using this, and unfortunately the paper I was using became heavily damaged in areas while I was doing the portrait. So I would advise that you get sturdier paper, so that way that's something if you don't want to deal with, you can avoid. Personally, if I was just starting, I'd like to have sturdier paper, so that way I could just focus on creating the best piece possible, and then later on getting the finer paper to add an additional layer of difficulty that I will experience when I'm actually tattooing. Now, another thing that'll happen is you'll see debris getting flicked around as the pen's hitting up against the paper. What I did was I put a few layers of paper towels beneath me to give it some give. That way it's not hitting between the paper between the ink cartridge and the surface below it, and not as harsh on it, and it'll give you an easier time creating smooth shading. Another thing to consider is that just like drawing with a pen, ink can build up excessively over the tip of the point of the pen, and you're going to want to make sure that you're cleaning it off from time to time, so that way you don't get any blotches and affect areas where you want things to be very soft and delicate. Now, sound is another thing to consider. If you want to keep your environment quiet wherever you're working, if you only have time to practice late at night, this can get very loud, because even if your machine's quiet, it's still rubbing up against the harder surface, and that's going to create loud buzzing sounds. And if you don't want to annoy neighbors or anyone else living with you, then that's something you should consider as well. Now, a possible solution for that could be if you have an armrest that will soften up the sound a little bit and give you quite a bit more give when you're practicing. So that would be a good thing. I haven't tried that myself yet, but that is something you guys could consider as well. Now, I was fortunate enough to get these for free. My friend here on YouTube sent these over to me, and I told him I'd make a video about this. So that's why you guys are seeing it here. I thought it would be good to share this because I think these are really cool and more people should use them. Now, currently he sells them in two colors. You have black and you have blue, and I will put the link to that down here in the description for those who want to purchase these. So again, unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish this one due to the trauma that had been done to the paper. As you can see here, you start to see quite a bit of debris flying around as I'm tattooing it. I tried to do the darker blacks and it ended up just eating up the paper. So personally, I really did enjoy using these. And if you guys like seeing time lapses of me doing these, let me know down in the description who you'd want me to draw next.